Okay, hello everyone. So today we are going to look at the 2018 O-Level Social Studies SRQ. So, all right, next is we're going to look at LOMS marking B, which is total marks of 8 marks. And if you look very carefully, it is slightly different from your 7 marks question. Okay, B question requires you to look at two different factors, and when you look at two different factors, you're supposed to actually weigh. All right, but let's take a look at how we unpack our marking. Now, if you are able to just write about the topic, okay, that means you just sort of like vomit out whatever content that you know, you get at least between 1 to 2 marks. Okay, when you are able to describe slightly more, and when I talk about describe, is really very much just factual. Whatever you can remember, whatever that again you can recall, you get quite a decent 4 out of 8 marks if you're able to describe two factors. Okay, again, look at this. If you explain one factor very well, you can get as high as 5 to 6 marks. All right, but just by explaining the factors, you will never get the 8th mark. All right, because if you look very carefully, the 8th mark actually is when you're able to describe both the factors and you are able to actually explain the factors in relation to the importance of each factor. What it actually means in simpler terms is you have to weigh between the factors and answer the question. All right, let's take a look at the question itself. Extracts 2 is about the healthcare system. It's a little bit more. So usually your extracts 1, extracts 2, and extracts 3 will be something related. And extracts 2 and extracts 3 is something that you can find in the textbook, or at least it is something that is familiar. All right? Okay. Let's take a look. Healthcare system is based on the belief that it's the government's responsibility. All right, the government's responsibility to provide healthcare to all citizens equally, regardless of their social background and ability to pay for their healthcare. Now, if you remember healthcare, we have learned that there are 3 healthcare systems. We have learned the USA healthcare system, which is market-based. All right, we have learned the Singapore healthcare system, which is a shared responsibility. That means both the government as well as the people are responsible. We've also talked about the Swedish healthcare system, and in the Swedish healthcare system, it is really solely a government, or sometimes we can call it a welfare system. All right, okay. Now, so if this is from your prior knowledge, you have known that, under government's responsibility, the examples that you need to quote is from the Singapore healthcare system as well as the Swedish healthcare system. It can be either or. Okay? Now, let's take a look at extracts 3. It actually says that in some countries, such as the USA, there's an emphasis on individuals taking responsibility. So if you remember about the US healthcare system, it is really about the use of insurance, for example, right? And continuing taking responsibility for their own healthcare needs and costs by buying insurance to provide them when they fall ill. And it's also to take care of their own health, right? Okay. Now, moving on, look at the question. Okay, it reflects the role of government. So like what I said just now, you will have one factor, role of government, as well as individual responsibility. Okay, look at the question. Do you think that the government or individual should have the greater responsibility? Now, I know some of you would straight away actually start by answering this question. All right, you want to answer straight away this question, and if you look very carefully, it is actually the conclusion part. So don't make the mistake of straight away jumping into this question. So what you should do actually is, all right, in paragraph 1, explore about the role of government. Okay, you can either use the example of Singapore or you can use the example of Sweden. How do these two governments, for example, all right, actually play a part in healthcare in their countries? All right, they give subsidies. Is it they give rebates? So these are all will be your examples. All right, and from there you have to link how the government is responsible for healthcare, right? Or actually, it will be why the government is responsible. And especially because it talks about the needs of the people, meeting the needs of the people, which is also related to issue 1. Okay, now in paragraph 2, then you talk about the role of individual. And in the role of individual, you can talk about insurance, obviously. Okay, how as an individual, we always need to be prepared. But at the same time, you can talk about the responsibility of taking care of themselves, right? Like eating healthier food, that means diet, you have to exercise, all these things. Okay, and your link would be how individual actually plays a big role in their own healthcare cost. The reason is if they take care of themselves, healthcare costs for them would be low, right? They don't have to go to the hospital, they don't have to go to the clinic that very often. Okay, so where is this balancing? This balancing will only take place when we look at paragraph 3, where you have to weigh. Now, between an individual and a government, who plays a greater role? And if you think very carefully, while the individual can take care of themselves really, really well, but at the end of the day, who has the greater resources as well as the greater means to really take care of so many people? Okay, so it could be the government that actually plays a greater responsibility because the government is able to come up with certain policies that even helps the individual to take care of themselves. Remember when we talked about last year, there was this battle against diabetes, for example, right? Those were things that the Singapore government actually made sure that we actually act upon it. All right, so the government has more means, has more leeway, or the government has more resources to actually be able to get something done more efficiently. Okay, so that could be a conclusion itself.